they have this need to control everything. So we showed families then, how do we build that flexibility? How do we add variations, manageable changes, so that the child can become more resilient, more flexible, more able to accept when things are not just so. Welcome to Shared Steps, the RDI Journey. I'm Genevieve. Here we explore real conversations and meaningful insights about supporting neurodivergent children and families. Hong-Lin sits down with me to explore what I'm looking at, what I'm listening for, and why the work with parents is just as important as the work with the child. Today we're stepping inside something you don't often get to see, a real RDI consultation.
Hi Jen!
Hi!
So today we would like to delve a little bit deeper about what RDI looks like.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, some behind the scenes kind of information.
Yeah.
So maybe we can start with finding out a little bit more about what you do to prepare a family for a session in RDI.
Okay.
When a family first starts RDI, what do they usually expect? And then how is it different from what actually happens?
I think a lot of families approach RDI thinking it's like a usual therapy model where they see the therapist for an hour every week. But with RDI, it's quite different because we use a parent-based approach. So what that means is that even before the family gets started, we start with the parents first.
Oh, how?
So it's a mixture of online sessions where parents learn about the theory and learn about the principles of RDI.
Okay.
And we also have in-person sessions. So with the in-person sessions, what we do is we don't rehash the theory because they've already done that, right? We look at the individual family. So at that point in time, we would have done what is called a baseline assessment.
Right.
So with the baseline assessment, we use that to find out, okay, what is the level of the child at the moment, the current developmental level. And we also look at to see how are the parents interacting with the child? What is their interaction like? And using that information, then during the meetup sessions, we tailor it for the family.
Right.
So for example, if we're working on dynamic intelligence, again, we don't talk about the theory because parents would have done that in their online learning. We look at what makes sense for this family in terms of dynamic intelligence.
Right.
So for example, would it make sense to show the family how would I work on problem solving and creating opportunities for the child to problem solve and to think?
Right.
Or would it be to help with building resilience in the child? Because there are many of our kids that want things exactly the same way.
Yes.
Right? And when certain things change because of that inflexibility, that fear, the anxiety, they have this need to control everything. So we showed families then, how do we build that flexibility? How do we add variations, manageable changes, so that the child can become more resilient, more flexible, more able to accept when things are not just so.
So how will you do that in a session with the parent?
So we would set up examples. We will role play with parents.
Okay.
And I know for a lot of Asian families especially, when we hear role play, it's like, oh, so uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you'll be surprised at how powerful a tool that can be. Because parents will start to experience like, oh yeah, I forgot that. Oh yeah, I didn't take that into consideration.
Right.
And by doing that, we're preparing parents. And once we've prepared them, we've helped them through all the hurdles that they face, all the things that they didn't expect, that they didn't take into consideration. Then when they go home, because we'll set them homework, okay, and the goal is not that the child has to pick up dynamic intelligence just like that, but the goal is to see how are parents facilitating, because we're using a parent-based approach. By guiding them through it during the session, when they go home and do their homework, they are more confident.
Right.
They feel better equipped. Because we would have gone through whatever contingencies. Because one of the things we often ask parents, okay, we're doing this, what might go wrong? And because they know their
okay.
kids, right?
Yeah.
So they'll say things like, oh, he won't want to do it. Very good. Okay, and then we'll walk through how to handle that.
Right.
And or the parents might say he might run away. Okay, we will walk through how to handle
So
all
some
these challenges.
troubleshooting and all that beforehand.
Exactly.
So parents feel confident going home.
Yes,
doing
because when those things happen, right, parents will feel confident that, oh yeah, we walked through this, so I'll know how to handle it.
So Jen, if someone were to observe an RDI session, what would they see that they won't really expect?
So after the parent readiness part, we will typically do a full assessment.
Okay.
And we don't do the full assessment at the beginning. The reason for that is that after the parent readiness, when parents start to change the way they interact, the child will start to shift
Right.
and start to develop as well.
Okay.
So that's why we don't do the full assessment. So once we do the full assessment and we determine where the child and the parents start developmentally, then we start our fortnightly sessions. So we actually don't meet up every week. So that's probably one of the first things that parents would notice that is different. It's not a weekly thing. It's a fortnightly thing because parents need time to do the work. During the session, what looks very different is that parents are not waiting outside or sent off or sitting and just watching. Parents are actually a very active part of every session. So we typically start off with parents first. So the
Okay.
parents come in, the kids get to go off and play at our practice. There's usually a waiting area or sometimes in another room where they go off to play. And so the parents come in and we prepare the parents. I will typically have an activity in mind.
Okay.
And depending on whether they're new parents or experienced parents, if they're new parents, I'll walk them through how to frame the activity.
Okay.
So framing is what we do when we use a framing worksheet and we frame an activity to focus on the goals.
Okay.
Because for RDI, the activity is the platform on where we work on the goals. And it's not the actual thing that we are after.
So it's more about the process rather than the outcome of the
activity. Yes.
Right.
So the framing part is very important so that parents understand that we frame so that we focus on the process, on the goals, and not on doing the activity, whether it's folding clothes or sticking stickers. That doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right? That is just the platform for the goals to take place.
Right.
So that's probably something that's quite different.
You know what else is different? Folding clothes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Where parents really have to learn to really focus on the goals and not be too hung up on the activity.
It's like a mindset shift.
It is a mindset shift. They are the ones going through the framing worksheet.
Oh.
So like I mentioned, it depends on whether they're new families. If they're new families, I will be helping them a little bit more in terms of how they go through the framing worksheet.
Okay.
If they are an experienced family, I'll ask them, frame it. This is the activity, frame it. I remember one mom used to tell me, wow, go to Auntie Jane's session, very stressful because got to do a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
I said, well, then it's good for your dynamic thinking
yeah,
as well.
Exactly.
They learn to frame on the spot. And learning to frame on the spot really helps them because at home, in time to come, they'll be able to frame whatever activity, whatever opportunities that they can find in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's so much more powerful for families because they are there with the child every day, and they'll be able to find these little moments, whether they're packing a bag, whether they're keeping their groceries,
That's right.
whether they're even putting laundry into the laundry basket. All these are small little moments, and all these small little moments, when parents know how to frame, it adds up.
Yeah.
By the end of the week, can you imagine all these small moments, how much time it will have add up?
So it's like doing therapy at home.
Yes, and I can tell you that it'll add up to more than 1 hour of therapy once a
Oh,
week.
for sure.
So that's the first part of our session that looks quite different. And then once they framed it, once they've thought it through, considered all the obstacles that might happen, the child comes in.
Okay.
So, and it's still going to look different because I will not be working with the child.
Right.
The parents will be working with the child. After the parents have worked with the child, we will call for a break. The child goes off to play again.
Right.
And then we'll discuss.
Okay.
So I'll ask parents, okay, what did they notice? What did they see? And the reason why we ask parents to reflect is again building in parents that ability to observe, to analyze, because that will make them better guides to their kids when they're at home. That's one of the key things that we do. And then after parents have reflected, then I will give my feedback, my thoughts in terms of, what went well, so that parents are aware that, this part was good and this is how we will continue. This part, needs some adjusting, you need to be mindful of that. So typically, some of the things that parents usually need to keep in mind will be things like slowing down. Because sometimes parents, they are too quick in their actions, too quick to help, too quick to jump in, not waiting long enough. These are typically some of the things. Or sometimes it can be they're talking too much and directing too much. Because when we're talking too much and directing too much, it doesn't allow the child time to think and to process. This is how a typical session would look like. And I will round off by saying, okay, you have any questions about the work that you need to do for the next 2 weeks, we'll clarify, and then parents head off and do their homework for the next 2 weeks. More homework. In terms of homework, parents will usually submit a 2 to 3 minute clip. And the reason why we specify 2 to 3 minutes is because we really don't want it to take up such a large part of the parent's life that they feel it's such a stressful thing. Whereas when we put it like 2 to 3 minutes, maximum 5 minutes, it's doable. Right? 2 to 3 minutes, very doable.
And in everyday moments, right? Small little moments.
And you only have to submit that one homework clip every week. Whilst our meetings are fortnightly, the homework is weekly. So that we can see what's going on at home.
Do parents get feedback about the homework that they submit?
Yes, they do. So typically, when they submit the homework, our feedback will come about 2 to 3 days later. 2 to 3 working days. The feedback will typically take in the form of a written feedback. This will prepare them for the next homework, because the upcoming session and the next homework that they have to submit, because they'll be submitting 2 pieces of work before their next session. And there's not too long a break, so that if there's anything that they need to adjust, they can adjust before the next homework is due.
Why does RDI sometimes look so simple, but it's actually very difficult to do?
I think one of the key reasons is because unlike a lot of other therapies, we're not looking at just the behavior and the action. We're looking at the processes. Sometimes parents come and say, my child had a meltdown, or my child stims a lot. My question would not be about how do we stop the stims or how do we stop the meltdown. My question would be why? Why, and what is causing the meltdowns? What is causing the stimming? Because when we understand the why, then we know what are the processes that we need to work on. So although it may look very simple in terms of the activities that we do, right? Like keeping things and all that, that's not really what we're focused on. We're focused on the processes. We want to keep the activity simple because we don't want the child's attention and focus to be on the activity, and then they have nothing left, no resource left to focus on the process. For example, let's say we're talking about a meltdown, and we know that the meltdown is because the child cannot handle you moving their car. They have put their cars in a certain way, park their cars in a certain way, and they don't want you to touch or move their car. What does that tell us about the child?
Rigidity?
Yeah. So we know that there's some inflexibility. There's anxiety about things being unpredictable, things changing. That's why they have to control. Because when there's a need for control, it's always about that anxiety and fear of being able to handle things when they are not in control, when things change. What we need to think of is, how can we help this child accept changes so that he doesn't have to be so fearful whenever something is a little out of place. And we never start with the source of the meltdown. So let's say if it's the cars, we don't start with cars. We start with something that is not such a high level of challenge.
I see.
So for example, if keeping pencils in a container, maybe he feels nothing about keeping the pencils in a container. that's where we add the change. And the change we add are so tiny, so small, what Dr. Gutstein would say, too small to fail. Because we don't want the child to fail.
Right.
We want the child to succeed and to experience that success of being able to handle a change, being able to handle something that's unpredictable and feel that, hey, yeah, I'm still safe and I could do it. And it's many such moments that's going to build that resilience such that at the end of the day, in time to come, that child is going to be able to handle you moving a car out of space. Okay, but not yet. We don't start with that. So although the activities may seem simple, it can be very difficult because we're actually thinking about the processes, right? How can we make this challenge or this change, in this case, small enough such that the child cannot fail, but yet meaningful and authentic enough such that the child can feel like, oh yeah, I did it and I was successful. Because we don't want it to be too easy,
Right.
such that the child doesn't have that experience of overcoming it. But we also don't want it to be too hard, such that the child cannot overcome it and all they feel is like, I'm a failure, I can't handle it. We don't want that either. So that's why, although it may seem simple, it can be hard because it's hard to find that just right.
Right.
Right? Just right where it's enough of a challenge for the child to feel that they succeeded and build their confidence and build resilience, but yet not too difficult such that they feel overwhelmed and feel that they have failed.
So how will you know that you have tagged the challenge too easy or too hard?
That's where we observe the child. We always start at the easiest level.
Right.
So that it's often a lot easier to be able to scale up than to backtrack.
Right.
It's still possible to backtrack, but it's just a lot easier if we start simple and scale up. When we start simple and we find, that was too easy, we take it up a notch.
Right.
That's how we see. We base it on the child's reaction. And as we continue to observe and watch the child, we will see what is the right level for the child. Because when kids are able to show us, and they won't be able to tell us, for especially young kids, they won't be able to tell, Auntie Jen, this was the right level of challenge, or Mom and Dad, this was the right level of challenge. No, they won't be able to tell us. But what we will typically see is that we will typically see hesitation. And we will see a little bit of discomfort, but yet they can still meet that challenge.
Okay.
All right? They can still meet that change. Right. When we know that it's too easy is when it was nothing. It didn't even, they just did it and there was no hesitation, no pause, nothing. It was just flowing very nicely.
Right.
One of the things that a lot of parents want because they're so worried about a child struggling or having a meltdown is that they want everything to be smooth sailing. That's the irony sometimes, that when things are smooth sailing, very little learning is happening.
It's too smooth already.
It's too smooth. Because even for us, when do we learn? We learn through challenges, not when things are smooth and well. I mean, it's nice to have things smooth sailing, but really how much learning takes place. There must be a little bit of discomfort, not too much, but a little bit of discomfort to show that they are struggling a bit and then they got through it. And that these little moments are what builds their resilience. When it's too difficult, well, you can tell.
A meltdown.
You might have a meltdown, or you might have the startings of one, that's about to happen. And usually what we tell parents is stop before you hit the meltdown.
Yes.
Okay, because once you've hit the meltdown, you just have to ride it through. That's really the point of no return already. You start to see like, okay, this child is really struggling. He really cannot handle it. You stop. And I often tell parents, when you stop, don't just stop like that and say, okay, never mind. Since cannot, we will stop. Because what does that communicate to the child? It communicates that you weren't able to do it, so we're stopping because you couldn't do it. I usually will tell parents, make some excuse about yourself. Don't make it about whether the child could do or could not do. Once you recognize that, you make some excuse like, I'm so sorry. Mommy got stomachache. Sorry. I need to go toilet now. We stop first, And then it's about you.
Yeah.
Because you got stomachache, ma. Or you forgot something. Just make some excuse about yourself, because then it doesn't become like the child is a failure. He couldn't do it, and that's why we have to stop.
Yeah. So Jen, what does progress actually look like, especially when it's not obvious?
I think that's a question that a lot of parents, even professionals, often wonder.
Yes.
Because it's not, like we said, we're not looking at behaviors, we're not looking at doing activities,
Right.
but we're looking at processes. And processes is in the brain. It's not like you can scan the brain to see what it looks like, right? We look at internalization. That's one of the reasons why parents' homework is important, why they're journaling. So that's the other thing we ask parents to do. We ask them to journal things that happen, whether it's related to the objective or not. Good things and bad things. We ask them to journal what has happened during the week. That gives us a picture in terms of how the child is progressing. And we know when something has internalized because other people will start to comment on it.
I see.
Other people will start to observe. So for example, if we're working on the child socially referencing another person, what we will typically find is that teachers will tell parents, oh, you know, she's paying more attention and she's watching me more. And the other day, she saw her friend crying. She even went to sit beside her friend and put her arm around her friend. Isn't that social referencing that has been internalized? These are the things we look at to see when we have met our goals, when we have met our objectives through the observations of other people, because other people will not be setting up RDI conditions, right?
Right.
They will not be creating and scaffolding all these opportunities. But once a child has worked on those goals with their parents long enough and with enough opportunities, it starts to get internalized. Because the brain has processed it and they have developed and built these connections and these processes. And once you've built those processes, unlike behavior, you know, with behavior we always worry, can we generalize?
Yep.
With processes we don't have to, because once a child has developed these processes, you can't exactly switch off that part of the brain.
And he's taking this with him everywhere he goes.
Exactly. When it's internalized and these processes are built, it will start to emerge and other people will start to notice and other people will comment on it. And that's how we know that we've arrived and we can move on to the next goal and objective.
So Jen, what do you want families to understand before they start this journey?
I think one of the things I often get asked is, how long is it going to take?
Yeah.
And that's the question that I cannot answer. Because it's development.
Yeah.
How long kids take to develop is really hard to say. If you think about typically developing children, how long do they take to develop from infancy to adulthood? It takes years. So we also shouldn't expect our kids to shortcut and be able to develop very fast. Even if we don't look at adulthood, even if we look at kids from infancy to when they move from interacting with their parents and then they move to making a friend, right? Even that process of making a friend takes a number of years. Because for very young kids, you see, what do we see first? We see parallel play, right? They are not really playing with each other. And then once they start playing with each other, how long does it take before they genuinely have that best friend or that close friend? It takes time because development takes time. So likewise, I think one of the things I want parents to understand is that with RDI, we're looking at development. And that takes time. It's not a shortcut. It's not a magic pill. Kids have to go through life experiences in order to develop. We all do. And our goal is to provide them with those experiences so that they don't miss out on certain parts of development, which tends to happen with kids who have a developmental diagnosis, like autism or ADHD. Because sometimes as adults we tend to be so focused on certain things like getting them to talk or getting them to behave that we don't provide the necessary opportunities for them to develop the way other kids develop. That's what RDI is. It's about giving them that opportunity to move through development again. And that takes time.
So Jan, we've been speaking so much about what RDI may look like and what's so different about it. Why do you think this work matters long term?
One of the things we ask families whenever they attend one of our talks is what are their hopes and dreams for their children. A lot of families will say independence,
Right.
right? Being able to make friends. These are all the long-term goals
Right.
that families want. And they are very meaningful goals and good goals to have.
Exactly.
Because which parent wouldn't want their child to be independent? Which parent wouldn't want their child to have friends,
Yeah.
right? And relationships. I think all parents do. That is the long-term goal that we're aiming for. We want kids to be able to take care of themselves so that when parents are no longer around, we know that they'll be fine. We want kids to be able to have relationships. They don't have to be social butterflies, but if they can have one or two friends that they can turn to, they can hang out with, that is meaningful.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we want our kids not just to live their lives, we want them to have meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
Without that meaning and purpose in life, what gets us up every day? We want our kids to have that. I remember one father was telling me, my daughter, she's taken care of. Financially, she doesn't need to work.
Okay.
And I told him, no, she has to work. She doesn't have to earn a lot of money, but she has to work. She has to do something that brings that meaning and purpose in her life.
That's right.
That gives her a reason to wake up every day. It gives her a reason to move through her day and to do things for herself. That is the long-term goal of RDI. RDI is not something you do for a few weeks or a few months. A lot of parents ask whether, can we do for just a few sessions? And my answer is no. Because that is not the goal of RDI. It's not just putting plaster on certain things. We are looking at long-term prognosis, long-term well-being of the child. We want our kids to be that independent person. And if you watch some of our podcasts, there will be another one that's coming up with one of our RDI graduates. And don't forget the last one with two of our RDI kids. That is what we want. We want young men
and women,
yes, who are able to go out, work, take care of themselves, and have friends, lead meaningful lives. Yeah, and that is the long-term goal. That is what we're working towards with RDI.
Thank you, Jen, for sharing so much with us about what goes on behind the scenes for RDI, and we learned so much today.
I'm glad. I hope that gives families an understanding of some of the work that we do. And if families and professionals want to learn more, we have lots of resources on our training website. So please visit our training website. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Shared Steps, the RDI Journey. If you found today's conversation meaningful, I'd love for you to follow or subscribe so you won't miss the next episode. And if you know a parent or professional who might benefit from understanding RDI a little deeper, please share this podcast with them. Every small step helps us spread awareness across Southeast Asia and beyond. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to having you with me in the next episode.